Hello viewers, welcome to another session of All Force e-learning program. Now in this session, we will take up the applications of the electric field intensity due to a linear charged wire, charged conductor, a charged wire, right? Let us take up the applications. In the previous episode, we have derived a formula for the linear charge conductor. Suppose there is a linear charge conductor charged uniformly, infinite long charged conductor it is charged uniformly throughout the circumference, a thin wire charged uniformly. Its linear charge density is lambda. So for linear charge conductor, lambda remains constant. So if I consider a certain length of the conductor, we have imagined a Gaussian surface, right? A Gaussian surface of length L. This was the length L of the Gaussian surface, right? So therefore the amount of charge present inside the Gaussian surface, the quantity of charge, lambda is Q by L. So the charge inside the Gaussian surface, this is lambda L. It is equation number 1. Yeah, later we have considering the Gaussian surface there at a point P at a distance R. Here we derived the formula for the electric field intensity as E is equal to, first magnitude, it's lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught R. Now this is the formula for the electric field intensity due to a linear charged conductor, infinite long charged wire, charged conductor, uniformly charged conductor, a thin glass rod, charged uniformly charged glass rod. So the electric field E is lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught R. Now this is the magnitude. Now coming to the direction. So the direction of the electric field is outward normal to the Gaussian surface. At any point it is outward normal like this, spread outward. At any point of the surface it is normally outward. It is in the direction of the radius vector r bar. So if I represent this vectorially, E bar I can write it as it's lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. The direction of the electric field is along the radius vector. It is r cap. R cap represents unit vector. In first year we have learned a cap. The unit vector along a is a bar by mod a. Right? So therefore r cap, substituting, I get E bar is lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. It is r bar by mod r. So E bar is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r square magnitude into this is r bar. This is the vector form of the electric field. Right? So the direction of the electric field is in the direction of the radius vector. Now let us understand this carefully. Suppose if the linear charge conductor is positively charged, positive, then the lines of force are outward. They spread out of the Gaussian surface like this. So the flux is outward. Outward flux in the sense, for positive charge electric field is outward normal to the Gaussian surface. So the flux is positive. It is positive. So E will be in the direction of radius vector. It is plus of lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r square r. For positive charge, if the charge conductor is positively charged, then E bar is like this. If not, if instead of this, if it is negatively charged. So if the linear charge conductor is negatively charged throughout like this, negatively charged minus. So if I imagine the Gaussian surface like this, then the direction of the electric field is towards the conductor like this. The lines of force will be towards the conductor. They are normal to the Gaussian surface but pointing towards the conductor. At any point they are pointing towards the conductor like this. This is the direction of the electric lines of force. But the radius vector is outward normal r bar. E bar is towards, it is in opposite direction. So for negatively charged wire, if it is negatively charged wire, then negatively charged wire. For positively charged wire, then it is E positive. For negatively charged wire, the direction is towards. So E bar is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r square minus r. So direction is toward, but r bar is away, so it's minus, negative. So for positive charge, the flux is outward. The flux here will be negative because the flux is inward flux. The lines of force are coming inside the flux through the Gaussian surface. They enter into the Gaussian surface, entering flux. Here it is emitting flux, emerging flux. Here they are entering into the Gaussian surface. Right, it is entering flux is negative. E direction opposite to the radius vector, and it is the magnitude is like this. E vector, vectorially electric field is represented in this direction. First part. Later, then the electric field due to the linear charge conductor. Now, if you analyze the magnitude of the electric field, now, so for a linear charge conductor, the magnitude of the electric field is lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. I can rewrite this as the magnitude E is equal to multiply 2 and divide by 2. It is 4 pi epsilon naught r. Now, because 1 by, in all the expressions, usually we write it as 1 by 4 epsilon naught. While calculating the value for electric field in a numerical, when some values are given, then you can write this as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is 9 into 10 power 9 2 lambda by r. So the electric field is 9 into 10 power 9 2 lambda by r. Directly you can calculate the value. If lambda is the linear charge density and r is the distance, then just substitute. In a previous entrance examination, a question was given, a linear charged wire of lambda, something like 3 into 10 power minus 6 coulomb per meter. Then you are asked to find the electric field intensity at a distance r is equal to some 9 meters. What is the electric field intensity? He has given lambda value, r value. In air, it is 9 into 10 power 9, like this. Substitute, you will get the answer. Right? So this is the way you calculate the magnitude of the electric field intensity. Suppose if this charged wire is in a medium, in a dielectric medium. We know in a dielectric medium, the epsilon value, the permittivity, we have been learning for many charges, point charges, dipole, all this we have learned. When it is in air, it is epsilon naught, electric permittivity of free space. If it is in a medium, it is epsilon, which is k times epsilon naught. So here instead of epsilon naught, you should write epsilon. We get epsilon naught k. Right? So the electric field will be, the value will be k times less. It is known. For any charge in the electric field in the medium, in any dielectric medium, field will be k times less. It reduces k times. Okay? Yes. Next, coming to this expression there, if I consider the electric field, if I represent the electric field with respect to distance, now compare. For a positive charge, we have derived the formula for positive charge at a distance r. The electric field is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, it's q by r square. For a point charge, the electric field varies inversely with the distance, square of the distance. E proportional to 1 by r square. For a point charge, E is varying inversely to the square of the distance. But for a linear charge conductor, electric field varies inversely with the distance. Just inverse with the distance. It is inversely proportional. If I draw a graph between E and R, the graph drawn between E and R, if I represent the variation of electric field with respect to distance R, right? Imagine this as a thin conductor, very thin, right? From the surface, electric field with distance R, right? The electric field starts from the surface. From the surface, if I consider here, the electric field will be maximum and it will be tending to infinity. Right? So it tends to infinity this way. It is a rectangular hyperbola. Just have a variation. The variation is a rectangular hyperbola. Right? Rectangular hyperbola. It varies inversely with the distance, but not touching the axis. I am taking from the surface for a small distance out. It is varying inversely. So the electric field varies inversely with the distance. E inversely proportional to R, in the sense E1 by E2 is equal to R2 by R1, or E1 R1 is equal to E2 R2. For a linear charge conductor, the electric field intensity varies with distance as inversely proportional to R. So E1 R1 is E2 R2. Right? Next, electric field intensity purely directly proportional to the linear charge density of the wire. E directly proportional to lambda. So its E1 by E2 is lambda 1 by lambda 2. Right? Combining both, if I put both the things together, E1 by E2 is lambda 1 by lambda 2 into R2 by R1. This is the variation of the electric field comparing two different electric field intensities. E1 by E2 is lambda 1 by lambda 2, R2 by R1. Right? So this is the electric field intensity, the factors affecting the electric field intensity of a linear charged conductor. Okay? Still. So if I consider a linear charge conductor, so for a infinite long charge conductor, uniformly charged infinite long conductor of linear charge density lambda extending up to infinity this side as well as up to this side, then for this at a distance r, the electric field is found to be lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. This is the formula. Right? For an infinite line, two-side infinite long conductor, what is the electric field? E is lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. Now the question is, if there is a infinite long charged conductor, but it is one side infinite long, but the other side there is no conductor. So the conductor is cut off to this point. Right? Here, from here the charge is extending in the upward. Here the charge is extending in the upward direction up to infinity, but there is no conductor down. And now the question is, at a point P at a distance r from this, what is the electric field due to this? The electric field at point P due to, right, a part, only upward part of the conductor is extending up to infinity. There is no conductor in the downward side. So when I consider a point P where the charged wire is extending even up to infinity in the upward direction as well as in the downward direction, then the total electric field is this. So there is charged conductor half in the upward part and half in the downward part. Then the total field is this way. But if it is only a conductor which is extending up to infinity in the upward direction, no charge conductor in the downward direction, then the electric field at this point is found to be half of this. Right? For full length conductor, both side infinite long, it is lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. Or electric field is 2 lambda by 4 pi epsilon naught r. When it is both side extended up to infinity. But here when only extended only one side, then the electric field is half of this. Half of this in the sense it's lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r by 2. It is 4 pi epsilon naught r. This is 2 lambda by 4 pi epsilon naught r. But here it is only lambda by epsilon naught r. In the sense, only this part of the charge has got influence here. There is no charge on the lower part of the conductor. Like suppose if I imagine a Gaussian surface, right, uniformly distributed like this, then in this only half the charge exists. But here if I consider the same Gaussian surface here, then there is charge above this as well as here. So the charge enclosed here is double, but the charge enclosed here is half. So I get the field also to be half. So the electric field due to an infinite long charge conductor, one side infinite long charge conductor at a point at a perpendicular distance r at the lower end of the conductor. Here it is both side infinitely extending up to infinity on either sides. Then the field is lambda by 2 pi epsilon r or 2 lambda by 4 pi epsilon r. But here the field is at a point at the lower end of the conductor. It is only one side infinite, then it is at a distance r. Then the electric field intensity. So the electric field due to one side infinite long extending conductor, a charged linear charge conductor extended up to infinity onto one side. At the lower end, at a perpendicular distance r from it P, at point P, the electric field is lambda by 4 pi epsilon naught r. In compared to this, if the charge conductor is extended on either sides, on the upward direction, upward side and the lower side, then both side infinite long extended conductor, linear. For this, it will be twice this. So it is 2 times of 2 lambda by 4 pi epsilon naught r. So in comparison, the electric field due to full length infinite long conductor on both sides is twice the electric field due to that linear charge conductor only extended in one direction at the lower end. A very good question, a very good comparison between this and this. Right, here it is 2 side extended, here it is only 1 side extended. Please note this difference there. Okay, right. Next, suppose if I take the applications of this linear charge conductor with respect to Gauss law, right, with respect to Gauss law. For example, there is a linear charged conductor uniformly charged with linear charge density lambda, and this uniformly charged conductor, right, around this we are imagining a cube of side A, passing through the midpoint of opposite sides, right? So I am imagining this is a uniformly charged linear charge conductor of linear charge density lambda, uniformly charged infinite long linear charge conductor of linear charge density lambda, passing through the midpoints of the opposite sides in a cube of side A. Then the question is, what is the flux associated with this cube? The flux that is associated with this cube. And this is the question. Now this question was asked in one of the entrance examination. If the uniformly charged wire passes from midpoint of this side of the cube here, it is passing the midpoint of this side to the midpoint of the opposite side. It is going from the midpoint of this side to this side, passing through it like this. Then what is the flux associated with this cube? We know, according to Gauss law, the flux through an enclosed Gaussian surface, the flux pertaining to an enclosed Gaussian surface is equal to the charge that is enclosed inside the Gaussian surface by epsilon naught. According to Gauss law, the flux associated with the enclosed Gaussian surface is equal to the charge that is inside that enclosed Gaussian surface by epsilon naught. So to find the flux pertaining to this Gaussian surface, first we have to find out the charge. Now we are given with a uniformly charged conductor. So I was telling you, when charge is distributed uniformly, uniform charge distribution, then we have considered 3 different definitions. When the charge is distributed linearly on a line of charge, linear, then we define linear charge density lambda. Lambda is Q by L. Right? Now, with respect to this Gaussian surface, what length of the conductor is inside the Gaussian surface? The length of it is given that the conductor is infinite long, but the part of the length of the conductor that is inside the Gaussian surface is from this end to this end, midpoint of one side to the midpoint of other side. So the length inside is A. Right? In a cube it's going from midpoint of one side to the midpoint of another side. So the length is equal to length of the side, that is A. So therefore, the charge that is enclosed inside the conductor, corresponding the charge that is enclosed inside the Gaussian surface, this is linear charge density lambda into length of the conductor inside the Gaussian surface. The length of the conductor inside the Gaussian surface is A. So therefore, charge that is inside is lambda into A. Right? Now substituting that here, the flux that is associated with this cube, total cube, the flux associated with the cube is the charge inside. Charge inside is lambda A, where lambda is its linear charge density by epsilon naught. So lambda A by epsilon naught. This is the flux that is associated with the cube. Considering the cube as the Gaussian surface, then the flux through the total cube, complete cube, total flux through the cube is lambda, linear charge density. Length of the conductor that is inside the linear charge, inside the cube, A by epsilon naught. This is the first question. It's a second question. Suppose if this linear charge conductor, instead of existing from midpoint of one side to the midpoint of another side, if suppose is placed oriented inside such that maximum flux is associated to the cube. Now this question was asked in previous AIIMS, All India Institute of Medical Sciences, right? There is a cube, a Gaussian surface of cubical shape, Gaussian surface of side A. A linear charge conductor, uniformly charged linear charge conductor is passing through the cube. It is passed through the cube, right? It is passing through the cube of side A like this. The maximum flux that is associated with the cube is dash. Maximum flux. The question is asking to find what is the maximum flux associated with the cube. Now we know according to Gauss law, the flux associated with the Gaussian surface is, the flux is charge inside by epsilon naught. Now he is asking you to find out what is the maximum flux that is associated. Epsilon naught is a constant. Flux will be maximum when charge is maximum. So when maximum charge of the conductor is inside the cube, inside that Gaussian surface, then the flux associated with that will be maximum. So flux purely depends upon the charge. Flux is maximum when charge is maximum. Now when is the charge maximum? You know, when a charged conductor is passing through, we define the linear charge density lambda is Q by L, and Q is equal to cross multiplying lambda L. Now for the flux to be maximum, charge inside should be maximum. For the charge to be maximum, this charge maximum, lambda anyway is a constant because it is a uniformly charged linear conductor. For a uniformly charged conductor, lambda is always a constant. So this is a constant. For the charge to be maximum, length to be maximum. So maximum length of the conductor must be inside the cube. Now in a cube, the maximum length of the conductor will exist if the conductor passes from one diagonal to the other diagonal. So if the conductor is made to pass from one diagonal to another diagonal like this, right, opposite diagonal, from one corner to the opposite corner, it's along one diagonal, passing through one corner of the cube to the other opposite corner along the diagonal, right? The charge associated with this cube will be maximum if the length of the conductor inside the cube is maximum. The length of the conductor inside the cube will be maximum if the conductor passes from one corner to the opposite corner, right, along the diagonal of the cube there. So if the conductor is along the diagonal, body diagonal, right, it is along the body diagonal of the cube, passing from one corner to the right opposite corner, then maximum length of the conductor exists. What is the length? You know, in a cube, if this side is A, this is A, right, then this diagonal will be root 2A, and even this length is also A, then the length of the body diagonal is root 3 times A. By geometry, right, you can find out if these two, in this plane A, this side is A, this side is A, both are perpendicular. If I take the face diagonal, the face, bottom face is a square. If I take the face diagonal, then this face diagonal is the hypotenuse of A and A. Both perpendicular, then this is the hypotenuse, you get it as root 2A. To this face diagonal and this vertical side, then the body diagonal is the hypotenuse. Right? So the body diagonal is the hypotenuse of the face diagonal and the vertical side. Right? Suppose if these are the two sides of the cube there, then this is the face diagonal. If this is A, face diagonal is root 2A. This is root 2A and the vertical side is A. So if the vertical side is A, our body diagonal is the hypotenuse of the face diagonal and the vertical side. So this will be under root of root 2A whole square plus A square, which is nothing but root 3A. So the maximum length of the conductor will exist inside the cube if the conductor has maximum, conductor is passing from one corner to the right opposite corner, it is along the body diagonal of the cube there. So when the infinite long charge conductor is passing through the cube along its body diagonal, right, then the length of the conductor inside is root 3a by chart. Therefore the maximum length of the conductor inside is root 3a. Therefore the maximum charge inside the cube will be linear charge density lambda into maximum length, that is root 3a. The maximum length of the conductor inside the cube is root 3a. So the maximum charge is lambda times root 3a. Now substituting that in this, the maximum flux through the body diagonal, the maximum flux through the cube when the conductor is along the body diagonal, the maximum flux associated is maximum charge, that is lambda into root 3a by epsilon. The maximum flux is lambda into root 3a by epsilon naught. So the question was just simply asked, a uniformly charged linear charge conductor of linear charge density lambda is passing through a cube of side A. What is the maximum flux associated with the cube? Now this was a question asked in previous AIIMS examination. So the maximum flux, so you should now think like this. According to Gauss law, flux is charged by epsilon naught. Flux will be maximum when the charge is maximum. Flux is said to be maximum when the charge is maximum. Charge of the conductor inside the cube will be maximum. Charge associated with the cube will be maximum if maximum length of the conductor is inside the cube. The maximum length of the conductor would exist if the conductor passes from one corner to the right opposite corner. If the conductor is along the body diagonal of that cube there, then if it is along the body diagonal, then its length is root 3a. So if the maximum length of the conductor inside is root 3a, maximum charge inside the conductor is lambda into root 3a. Substituting, the maximum flux associated with this cube will be lambda root 3a by epsilon naught. Now there may be a question comparing this and this. If the charged conductor passes through a cube, first passing through the midpoints of the opposite sides, and if the same conductor passes through the corners of the opposite corners of the cube, then what is the ratio of the flux? The ratio of the flux. In first case, when it is passing through along the parallel to the side of the, if the conductor passes through the cube parallel to any side, then it is lambda a by epsilon naught. If the conductor passes through the cube such that it is along the body diagonal, then the flux associated to it is this. Then the ratio lambda a by epsilon is common, cancelling one another. The ratio initially is 1, it is root 3. This is root 3 times more than the flux pertaining to this. Root 3 times more. If this is 5, then this is root 3 times 5. Maximum flux is root 3 times the flux when it is going parallel to the side. A linear charge conductor when passing through a cube, then the flux associated can be calculated in this manner. In one of the entrance examination, a theoretical question was asked. In one of the entrance examination, theoretical question was asked, like a linearly charged glass rod, a uniformly charged thin glass rod of limited length, a glass rod like this of limited length, uniformly charged with some linear density lambda, is made to pass through the cube like this. It is made to pass through the cube. Cube is big enough. The length of the conductor is less when compared to the side of the cube. Cube is big enough. The conductor is of smaller length. Let's say this is the cube. This is the conductor of limited length. Linear charge density is lambda. It is slowly passed from the midpoint of one side to the midpoint of another side. It slowly passed inside like this, and it is made to pass through this, and it is made to emerge out of the cube. Then how does the flux vary with this position? As the position changes, how does the flux vary? The flux variation of the flux with the, as I move it through it with constant velocity, variation of flux with respect to time, right? If I am moving this conductor with constant velocity through this cube, then how does the flux vary? This was the question asked in earlier this thing. Now, when the conductor starts first with initial position at this point here, so now the time starts 0. I am slowly moving the conductor into the cube there. As I move the conductor into the cube with constant velocity, the part of the length inside the conductor increases. The length inside the conductor is increasing. So as I move it inside, the length increases. As the length increases, charge inside the cube increases. As the charge inside the cube increases, flux emerging from the cube also increases linearly, because the velocity is constant. I am moving it with constant velocity, so the length inside increases with constant velocity with time. It is proportional to time. As the length increases, charge inside the cube also increases linearly, and flux also increases linearly. As the time passes, the flux increases linearly like this, right? Until all the conductor is inside the cube, the flux will increase. When all the length of the conductor is inside the cube, then this is the point. Here, now it has to move from one side of the cube to the other side of the cube. While moving from one side of the cube to the other side of the cube, the conductor is inside the cube. You know, I was telling you, according to Gauss law, the flux associated to a Gaussian surface is independent of the position of the charge inside. Wherever it is inside, it only matters on the amount of the charge inside, the quantity of charge. But once it has come inside, total length of the conductor is inside, then as it moves, its position is changing, but it is within the inside part of the cube there. So the conductor is moving constant velocity like this. The position inside is changing, but flux associated does not change with position. So the length inside the conductor remains same. So the charge inside is same, flux is also same. So the flux remains constant until this conductor reaches the other side of the cube there. Until this conductor, this end reaches the other side of the cube, the flux remains constant. Later, now when the conductor comes to this end of the cube, this end, so first it was entering into the cube like this, it moved gradually, later it reached first position, this is the first position. Then when all the conductors come inside, this is the second position, this is second position like this. When the conductors come to this position, this is the third position. So here it is third. Now the conductor from this third position, the conductor is slowly coming out of the cube. As the conductor is moved, the length of the conductor coming out of the cube gradually increases. So length coming out is gradually increasing. So the length that remains inside the conductor gradually decreases. When the length decreases, charge inside also gradually decreases. When the charge decreases, the flux associated also gradually decreases. The flux associated to it also gradually decreases. When all the conductor has come out of the cube, fourth position, now this is the fourth position. So as the conductor is moved through the cube like this, the variation of the flux with the time, as it is moved with constant velocity, the variation of the flux with time goes in this manner. A very beautiful question asked in one of the entrance examinations. Thank you.